Talofa lava, this is Pacific Waves from RNZ Pacific. I'm Susana Swiswiki. Coming up.
A younger generation who have no formal education or disadvantaged, they're living in fractured family homes.
Papua New Guinea police struggle to cope with tribal revenge killings also.
A lot of the climate change issues kind of manifest themselves in the extreme weather events that we are facing.
Severe weather events are top of the agenda in a regional meeting this week, and later on we meet New Zealand's reigning dance champion, Happy Feet. The police and military in Papua New Guinea are struggling to cope with tribal revenge killings among local terrorists with high-powered weapons in Inga province. Reports from people on the ground place the death toll at about 50, but no official figures have been released. Hundreds of women and children displaced after 5 days of brutal fighting between rival clans living near Porgera gold mine, which began last Wednesday. Margot Staunton has more.
The police admit they were outnumbered, and reinforcements were sent in to try and ease tensions between hundreds of gunmen fighting in dense bush. The acting Western Division Assistant Police Commissioner, Joseph Tondop, says what began as a dispute between two illegal miners erupted into uncontrollable violence with random killings.
Yeah, we can classify them as local terrorists because they're all armed with very high-powered weapons, but the presence of illegal weapons in Porgera alone is quite alarming. I can't confirm whether they're coming from the Indonesian border or from the Torres Strait and these areas. Some of these weapons are old military and police weapons.
Tondop says revenge attacks are very much a part of the culture in the region, and in the process of taking revenge, more people die. Timothy Ndambo, a local landowner, said the level of violence and lawlessness in the latest clash reflects a breakdown of family and cultural values.
A younger generation who have no formal education or disadvantaged, they're living in fractured family homes, they're growing up on the street, and they have no respect, no understanding of cultural norms and values. And when these uneducated guys who are intoxicated with weed and drugs, having a gun in their hands, they're just going berserk.
Retired Papua New Guinea Defence Force Chief Commodore Peter Alau says politicians continue to undermine law enforcement officials.
The police and military are weakened because of constant political interference with those institutions, and they should allow the military, the police to use their professional mindset, professional training, to respond and do it there.
Commodore Alau says logistics and resources have always been a problem, but the concern is how the governments have managed these institutions, including the appointment of leaders who are unqualified for the job. The police disagree.
Politics has got nothing to do with our operations. The leadership of the police, we just need to stand up and uphold the rule of law. It's not corruption, it's just that we are not doing our job well.
The fighting has subsided, although tensions remain. The police are trying to identify the leaders behind the fighting, discussing their grievances and making arrests if mediation fails. Commodore Alau believes the main reason for the tribal clashes is the ongoing issue of poverty.
It's a mixture of tribal legacies, the unfair sharing of wealth from the Porgera mine proceeds. A minority group benefits more than the majority. I mean, that's not only confined to that part of the highlands, it's all over Papua New Guinea as well.
Papua New Guinea's Deputy Prime Minister, John Rosso, says lack of police recruitment has contributed to violence in the country. It comes as the latest outbreak of tribal fighting in Inga province leaves dozens dead after 4 days of clashes between opposing groups living near Porgera gold mine. Our correspondent Scott Whitey spoke with Mr. Rosso about the broken criminal justice system and the need to recruit more police officers to handle ongoing violence.
It's a complex matter that has evolved over the years, and it's basically, in what my terms I call it, the cycle of justice, for law enforcement. Cycle of justice it's basically had cracks in it. It's got gaps in it. People don't realize that in the last 10 years. That we haven't had a police recruitment, and the police recruitment for any country is essential, and our police recruitment started last year when we got into government. We made it a focus and I personally made a focus on law and order. And I call it the cycle of justice and the rule of law. So we concentrated on making certain that we have a adequate police recruitment, but we were constrained by the numbers we could put through our police college. Our police college has a capacity of about 300 personnel every year. And after 10 years of not seeing any recruitment, our police college graduated the first 300 policemen and women this year, and after recruitment last year. So we need to increase capacity of our police from a strength of about 5,000 now to about 10,000 by the year 2027, and up to United Nations ratio per population, up to about 26,000 before we could hit the ratio per population equivalent for Papua New Guinea, and that's a huge task in any for any country and any government. But government has now been focused, and we will not see the results very quickly. But the police recruitment now has started. And having said that, the capacity at Bomana needs to be increased to a capacity of 1,000. And our bilateral relationships with and agreements with the Australians have now enabled Bomana to be given a facelift of about 59 million Australian dollars to increase the capacity of Bomana. So it takes not only personnel from our RPNGC, but also to help other Pacific Island nations to help send the personnel here. Every district, every electorate, every province should have a really good justice system. Justice needs to be seen to be delivered by the people. It needs to be felt by the people, and that somewhat is lacking in a lot of districts. This is why a lot of our people take the law into their own hands. We need to have each district have at least 10 policemen, have a police prosecutor, have a district magistrate based in each district so that they can dispense justice, carry out justice, and ensure the rule of law is enforced in our country. Too many times the rule of law is not enforced. That is why we have a lot of the situations we are faced with at the moment. And the biggest thing, as I said earlier, is there's been a lack of support in this sector for the last 10 years. Fortunately, this government, we have now made it our business to ensure that law and order takes priority. I am personally oversighting the law and justice sector to ensure that we have the adequate funding given to these relevant agencies, and ensuring that all these agencies and all these sectors are at work, so that we see the results of it within 4 to 5 years' time.
We keep seeing videos of so-called warlords and tribal leaders armed with very high-powered weapons, openly displaying, openly flaunting their arms. You've mentioned previously that the enforcement is lacking. In the case of Pogra and the previous incidents we've had in Wapanamanda, how do you see this going forward? I mean, what do you want to see?
The biggest thing that I see is that we need to have our leaders on the ground sitting, dialogue. In every community we have community leaders. In Papua New Guinea we have community leaders on the ground. Our community leaders and plus our district leaders and provincial leaders need to sit down together and work in unison. They need to work in unison, working together, identify those perpetrators, because those perpetrators are known to them. It is not like they're not known to them. They need to ensure they identify those perpetrators and let them face the rule of law. But at the same time, our security forces need to start arresting people and enforcing the law. Too often you see warlords walking in front of soldiers and policemen with weapons in plain view. No one gets arrested. and the rule of law needs to be enforced. Parliament has changed the law. Anyone found with an illegal weapon is supposed to have a maximum penalty of life behind bars. But I have yet to see one person arrested for that. These things need to be, the rule of law needs to be enforced in all aspects. When you see someone who is drink driving, he needs to be arrested. If you see someone littering, they need to be arrested. If you see someone carrying an offensive weapon in a public place, they need to be arrested. Once they're arrested, then people will start knowing that the rule of law is in existence. And then we need to ensure that in Porgera, for example, people need to be arrested there, and instead of serving time in Porgera, we need to have a magistrate there, have the people prosecuted there, and then transported to another safer location, maybe on the coast or somewhere else, where they can serve their time. Right now, no one is getting arrested. That is why people think they can get away with it.
Severe weather events and setting priorities for Pacific meteorology directors will be discussed this week in Vanuatu. The Pacific Meteorological Council, or PMC, meeting brings together 26 meteorology directors from the region. SPREP's Meteorology and Climatology Advisor, Salesa Naimei, spoke with Moira Tuileipa-Taylor.
We meet every 2 years to provide a health check on how we are doing as a region, bring anything that comes up for us to discuss, as well as an opportunity for us to work together as a region. And I think that is one of our strengths in this region, working together.
Over the years since you've held these meetings, what has been some of the biggest issues and concerns for the Met directors in the region?
Definitely climate change is a big issue that all try to grapple with, but not only climate change, but what we are facing now, the severe weather events that we continue to face. We see that a lot of the climate change issues kind of manifest themselves in the extreme weather events that we are facing, and most of our Met services in the region, small in size, they are often challenged to provide better services for their people to deal with these extreme weather events. So that, I would say, is one of the big issues. And in Vanuatu, we are meeting this week. It's especially important for them because they've been hit a number of times with severe tropical cyclones. So elevating the issues that some of the Met services are facing, and how we can work together to address some of these issues, and at least development partners that will be in the room at the time will hear what the priorities from member countries are. I would say the day-to-day operations, in getting information out is something that while we talk on climate change, but these things also needs to be addressed. So this meeting is important in that aspect.
Over the years, I've noticed as media how Met services have become more developed in terms of equipment, and how they also track now cyclones or tropical depressions before they develop into a cyclone.
Yes, and that all thanks to a lot of the support that we get from our, the development partners and technical agencies. Working together as a region has been really good for us, so we support each other when there are technical issues, and the PMC is used as a vehicle to try and pull that together. One of the things that we have in this, over the week leading up to the PMC, we have technical working groups. So these technical working groups focus on marine and oceans, aviation, meteorology. They focus on climate services, education, training, infrastructure, and communications. And I think the advice that they provide kind of help shape us to work together as a region, and give us the best advice on how we can move forward in developing a lot of the work. One of the biggest achievements of the Pacific Meteorological Council over the years was their call to see how we can address the issue of climate change in building the capacity of the Met Service to deal with severe weather events, but not in a short-term project, but in a more long-term sustainable activities. So they've endorsed the Weather Ready Pacific as a means whereby we can have better coordination around multi-hazard early warning system, especially for the Met services. This has been endorsed by leaders. Now we have commitments from some of our development partners like New Zealand, Australia, the UK. We also have Japan now coming on board and addressing some of the needs that are raised by members, that these are some of our priorities. So the meeting this week, one of the heavy focus is, we are now just starting that program. This is the first year, so we will be reporting on that. So this meeting will be heavy towards trying to get more guidance from our members in how we move forward and giving us the direction. Because the PMC SPREP as an organization, we take our cue from our members. So what they tell us that, these are their priorities, then we help shape the work that we do to try and address those priorities.
The PMC meets every 2 years. Self-taught dancer John Waifale, aka Happy Feet, is New Zealand's reigning hip-hop freestyler champion. His dance journey began in the Manurewa Library car park, using cardboard from recycling bins as his dance floor. No formal training, just YouTube, passion and determination. Since then, Waifale has danced his way around the world, taking out competitions and making a name for himself. He'll be performing in Ko'o, He Po during Art Week's Late Night Arts early next month in Auckland's Britomart. I spoke with John Waifale and began by asking how he became interested in hip-hop dance.
I started when I was younger. My grandparents, especially my grandfather, was a bit of a performer back in Samoa. Which then kind of traveled down to my father, who picked up breakdancing when he was in his youth days, and that's when breakdancing just came out. And then I guess it kind of just carried on to me, and I had always been kind of a child that loves to move around from when I was young. And as I got older, I started to realize that, I love dance, and so I kind of taught myself. I used the local library. Because we didn't really have internet at home. So I used the local library to go watch YouTube videos and watch how to do particular moves. And, I just kind of built it from there.
And how did you get your nickname Happy Feet?
All right. When I was younger, during those days of me kind of finding myself as a dancer, during the summer school holidays, we'd always go to the local pools. And at the local pools, they'd always have a radio playing. And I guess, music to me is infectious. So as soon as I would enter, I'd just start moving. I'd dance my way into the water. I'd dance in the water. I would dance out of the water, And one of the lifeguards, I remember, she just called me over and she says, every time you're here, I always see you dancing. You remind me of that movie Happy Feet. And I kind of didn't think much of it. I was like, yeah, whatever, that's all right. And so she started calling me Happy Feet, and then other people heard that, and I guess the name just stuck. And now I still have it years later.
It sounds like you're not only passionate about what you do when it comes to dancing, but it's also been it's very much a generational thing. When you mention your grandfather and your father, but tell me, how has your Pacific identity, how has that played into, or how has that influenced your style of dancing?
For me, obviously, finding hip-hop and street dance was, where I kind of went with in terms of my dancing, but having my Pacific heritage has always been a big part of it, and I've never been afraid to represent it. There's been times in dance competitions or in dance events and dance battles where, I showcase it. I mix in a little bit of whakopaki into my dancing, or into my hip hop dancing, or a little bit of salsa into my hip hop dancing, just because I know that that's me and that's where I'm from. And I also feel like I've always thought that Pacifica people were natural performers, and so having that natural performing ability has really helped me kind of excel, getting past all the nerves and the shyness, and just being able to put myself out there. I feel like is kind of due to being Pacifica, music and dance is a big part of our culture, and so I feel like it was really easy for me to kind of head that way in terms of finding myself in street dancing and hip hop. But yeah, always showcase it, and no matter where I am, whether I'm here in New Zealand, Australia, or even overseas in some country, I always will showcase where I'm from. Proud, really.
And I understand that you'll be performing with the project team, which you've just mentioned earlier on, next month at the Ko O Hepo. What is that show all about?
Oh, yeah. So we'll be performing a part of the Late Night Arts in Takutai Square on the 10th of October. And we'll be performing one of our a rendition of one of our shows called Go'au or Ko'o. And it's just Go'au is a piece of performance formed by us, created by us, about us, about our identity, and showcasing it through what we've loved and what we've found, which is a lot of street dance. Project Team is a street dance collective where from all over New Zealand, or just a bunch of friends who love to do different styles of street dance, but ethnicity-wise, we are very diverse, and so Go'au kind of showcases that diversity through the platform of street dance, through the platform of hip-hop. So we have a Korean man, guy that loves popping, so he's showcasing his Korean culture through popping. I love hip-hop, and I'm Samoan. We have one of our girls who's Tongan, but loves the dance style of krump. So she's showcasing her Tongan culture through krump. So that's kind of a gist of what Go'au is.
And it's through your talent that you've been able to travel to multiple countries such as Japan and France. Would you ever consider taking your dance back to the Pacific Islands, such as Samoa, where your father and grandfather picked up their love for hip-hop dancing?
I actually would. There are like kind of plans within Project Team. Nothing too sorted just yet, but we do have plans to go back to the islands. Me personally, I have plans to go back to the islands and to Samoa and kind of share my love for dance, my passion for dance. But I also don't want to stop there. I actually, a personal goal of mine is I'd love to visit all the Pacifica Islands and share my love for dance to everyone, and me, every time I head overseas, I am Samoan, and I do represent being Samoan, but I also feel like when I'm overseas and I'm competing, I also carry, the kind of power and strength of us as all as Pacifica. But to answer the question, definitely in the plans, and definitely keen to go back and give back to our islands.
That's Pacific Waves for today. For all episodes, head over to rnz.co.nz/Pacific. We're also on Spotify, Apple and iHeartRadio. From myself and the RNZ Pacific team, tō whā suri fua.